what I've learned so far with my Reinventing business project. Mostly I've been reading books and writing about them and thinking wild thoughts, and occasionally visiting companies and that sort of thing. So probably the biggest thing that I've learned so far is that coming from a programming background, business management is like the complete opposite of the experience you have with programming. Computers are not really a science. They call it computer science. It's not really a science, but at least there's a lot of things you can test. There's a large number of things that you can actually test and try and figure out. With business management theories, it's, my guess is that it's about 95% of the stuff is just pulled out of the nether regions of somebody's head and written into books and turned into consulting packages. And so one of the hardest things about it is that you have to go through everything, and you don't really have a way of testing this stuff. You have to go through everything with a lot of skepticism. And you can basically not believe anything. Even the most popular books have often turned out to be, well, for example, In Search of Excellence it's still a super popular book, but most of the concepts in there have been shown to be very flawed. But what Tom Peters is good at is selling Tom Peters as a management. So there's this whole business of management consulting and writing books on management and that kind of thing, and you have to wade through all this stuff and mostly use your own brain to figure out what's going on. So there are lots and lots of business books. I mean, there's the number of business books that are published every year. It's hard to pin down the number, but it's enormous. And all the opinions out there, and if you go pick up a few, like, you know, Who Moved My Cheese, or the 1 Minute Manager, or one of those things, and you can come away going, oh, it's not that hard, you know, here are all the answers right here. And then you start to read a few more, and you get conflicting viewpoints, and you begin to understand that it's just anything that anybody can think of. They can get a book published, and they can, presumably the book publishing will get them consulting jobs and on there. But you have to read deeply enough to develop this kind of healthy skepticism. One really important point, I've probably thought about the possibility for maybe 30 seconds, is don't get an MBA. An MBA is, what it does is it teaches, and they've done studies on this. People go into an MBA and they've got all these grand ideas of how they're going to improve the world or whatever. They come out, you know, they test them again when they come out, and what they've learned is to maximize quarterly profits using spreadsheets and models and everything. So basically what an MBA teaches you is how to think inside the box. It doesn't teach you much creativity or anything. Schools now are cranking out 10 times more MBAs than they did 10 years ago. So the number of MBAs that are coming out is increased radically. The cost of an MBA is enormous, so you get big debt, and what the schools are really good at is pitching the MBA because they make a lot of money off of it. But the benefits that you get, there's maybe a few crash courses you can take for stuff that you actually need, and if you really want to, the other thing that they tout is, oh, well, you meet all these really important people that you'll have these connections with. You can go to conferences and probably meet better people, I would guess. There is, one of the things that I've been listening to, in fact it was Diane who turned me on to it originally a few years ago, is the Stanford E-Corner lectures that they record 1 minute. Those are really great because they don't filter them. They just take these people who have actually, they're not book authors mostly, they've created businesses, they put them up there and they let them talk, you listen to them, and then the next one you listen to can have completely differing opinion. And so you kind of get this idea that, yeah, nobody knows the answers though. There's a lot of younger entrepreneurs who come up saying that they have all the answers. Another issue that I'm struggling with is the idea of flattening management hierarchies, things like removing the need for management control by changing the environment to support autonomous work, realizing that people want to be productive and work for a higher purpose. And also, if you work with people you trust, you don't really need the oversight that most companies have. In fact, Carl works for a company